It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of the Tuesday segment on the MSD on 117.8. Today, I'll primarily be talking about two things, and I don't expect to go too long. So for Bible today, we'll be going into Alpha Day here in Korea, and I know everyone else got to celebrate at this point too. So it'll mostly be about Alpha Day, as well as the celebration that we had in AP as well. And so I know many of our listeners are from America, but on Alpha Day in America time, we had a gathering for the ministry department to go over testimonies, as well as a direction from something about evangelism in the U.S. And it was a very hopeful time. And so for me, it's Monday morning, and I just wrapped that up, and I'm recording at this time. So just wanted to share a couple things from that. I think it'll be a hopeful time for everyone. And then after that, I'll hand it off with Rachel with 2G Talks. And so, kind of before going into things, how's everyone doing? Right? How was your Alpha Day? And like Alpha Day and the celebration on June 1st, it's been around for a long time, but I can't specifically remember when we really started to celebrate this, right? And I don't know if the people really remember at what from what year it became a really big kind of festival and event that we started to commemorate. If you kind of remember at what point that was, feel free to leave it in the comments below, right? Because it's so important now. And I think it's a day for us each to kind of reaffirm our desire to make ministry happen. And it's like a fresh start almost, right? And it's very new because it's kind of like the midway point of the year, right? And so for most people, they only have that renewed sense of newness at the beginning of the year. But for us, we have it right in the midway of the year, at the end of the year, in March again too, and through all of these different times in our life. And so yeah, for me, I got to go to Wonmyeongdong, and there's two initial points for that. And I have a feeling that other people who have been in Korea long term or are from foreign nations, when they come to Korea, they always have this feeling, right? Because I think it's maybe a little less so now, but definitely in the past, coming to Korea, whether it's from America or from a different country, it meant more, right? And I don't mean that in a spiritual sense. Spiritually, even now, it still means a lot. But preparing to come to Korea, it was such a big thing, right? Because financially, it was something that you had to get really save up for. And even now, of course, you have to do that too. But I would say that it was harder in the past to go back and forth from Korea, right? It was only within the last few years that we started to have groups of 70 people coming for 316 or July 4th or stuff like that, right? So it's been kind of recent that we've been able to do more and more of those kinds of things. Of course, we used to have times back in the 90s when people were coming to Korea to visit something and stuff like that. So there were, of course, different times in the past, but it used to be really big, right? It required a lot of preparation, and it still does. But in many ways, the physical parts are becoming easier, right? AP bought a property that people can use when they're coming individually, and I'm sure things like accommodations and other things will just get easier over time, right? And that was another thing that we went over, even within Korea too, before, depending on what region you're coming from, the roads going up to Wonmyeongdong, and I don't mean just in Wonmyeongdong and the roads that we developed, but the roads that different municipalities and the country have developed have become much smoother. For me, I'm staying here with my cousins in Busan, right? And before, going up to Wonmyeongdong took a lot longer than it does today, right? And there's been some highways that have been built directly from Busan going up to the Daejeon, Kumsan, Wonmyeongdong area. And so it's I think I heard that it saves an hour or 2 hours compared to what it used to be to go up to Wonmyeongdong. And so all across, in different ways, the physical part about going to Korea and the physical parts about, going to Warmingdong specifically have gotten easier, right? The more things that, have been developed and the more that God continues to develop this history and to develop this country and to develop the world. And so because of that, I wonder if at times we value it the same way. And I know we do value it, and for in many ways like we value even more. But like I guess the specific aspect that I'm talking about is like here going to Warmingdong on days like Alpha Day, on 316, on these big kind of event days, it's kind of a given. Like many people go, and they already know, like they know the routine of like what time they have to get ready in the morning and stuff like that, right? Like whereas for us, like if we're going for 316, we're preparing like months in advance and weeks in advance, like packing our bags and those kinds of things, and planning out the events, the logistics, and it requires like IMD to be involved, headquarters, all of these different kind of things. But here in Korea, of course, you like have to put in your name to say that you're going to be there on that day, and kind of report ahead of time. But on the day of, you wake up and you go, right? Like I ate lunch with some people who live in my hometown, and my hometown is like an hour away from Warmyeongdong, right? So these guys, they get up at 9 and they show up, for Alpha Day, and they're able to do that because they're so close, right? Like for how many of us is that imaginable, right? Like that you can just wake up and go as if you're going to your local church. And one of the things, I guess, like to wrap up this part, the point I wanted to make was that for me, even being here in Korea, like since this is my like second year in a row that I'm able to stay kind of like long term like this, in many ways things have become more comfortable. Like last year I remember like taking the bus, like taking like a long shuttle bus to go to Warmyeongdong or to go to the airport. It was a lot less comfortable, right? Because I'm not used to it. I'm not used to the rest stop areas, like the amount of time it takes, the kind of the food and stuff too. Like not to say that the food is foreign, right? Because I am a Korean person. But my especially my dad's side of the family, we kind of have like weak stomachs, and so if we eat something wrong, it really messes us up for like for the whole day. And so like when you're traveling, I was trying to eat a lot more carefully because if I get stressed or if I eat something wrong, then man, it's gonna bother me the whole day, right? So the last few times I came to Korea, there were those kinds of things, but this time all of those things have gotten easier. But still at the same time, I don't want to lose that level of sincerity and dedication that we kind of bring like when we come from overseas, right? Like to Korea. Like even if for me, even if it is true that I can wake up that day and go to Warmingdong, like I don't want to lose that value. Right. And and people like when they come for Alpha Day and these other things, like it's not to say that the Korean people don't know the value, right? But there's like a lot of these small little things that you notice that people do for convenience sake that I think is like maybe less on the mind for foreigners because they know that this is not an opportunity that they have a lot. Like one of the things I'll say is like as soon as the event is over, people clear out like as soon as possible. Right. And this isn't everyone because a lot of people have to stay behind and there's like kind of follow-up events and like, you're meeting people for the first time, or like you're reconnecting with people you haven't seen in a long time. But there's other people who also know that the cars are gonna get piled up. And actually one of the things that you have to do when you park is you have to leave your phone number on the dashboard, because there's like a lot of double parking involved. So some people have to head down right away because if they don't move their car, other people can't move, their cars. And so there's like those kind of things. There's people trying to clear out as soon as possible. Whereas like I feel like for Westerners, you want to spend more time in the natural temple. You want to spend more time praying. You want to spend more time watching the subsequent follow-up activities and performances, and also connecting with people. And so those kind of things, I hope that that I don't lose, and that if people here in Korea have lost it, that they'll rediscover too. Right. One of the last things I kind of for this introductory portion is I'm sure from us, like from overseas, we know like the value of the natural spring water. And it's not to say that we know like all of the stories, all of the things, and that we've like experienced personally, like getting healed of like these major infirmities. It's nothing like that. But we know just how difficult it is to acquire it like from overseas, right? So when we're there, right, we try to drink a lot and we try to bring it back for other sick people, stuff like that. And those kind of things are things that I think are a little bit harder for people who are here in Korea to really gain the sense of. But I hope that both Korean people will be able to discover and rediscover that heart, and also that people from overseas, right, like that will continue to value it even as things get easier with coming to Warmingdong in the sense. And so with that, we'll go into the first break for today. And as we mentioned, I'll just be going into, I guess, more of the Alpha Day celebrations, as well as, what we did in AP for Alpha Day altogether. Awesome. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And I think, the majority of today's content will really be focused on what we did in American province for AP and some of the realizations from that. But like I guess I had one minor thing from attending Alpha Day here in Korea. Like, and this is so minor, but it's really great, right? And I think everyone got to watch it, right? Watch the recording or the live broadcast from Korea, and so you guys were able to witness and to see it as well. But I was really moved by the praise, and like I said, it might be like this may seem like a side note to the overall event and the focus and the word and stuff too. But the praise was great, right? Both like before, and I hope that everyone was able to listen to the actual performances afterwards. Like there weren't a lot, but there were like two, and I was really moved by it because one of the things I've been really thinking lately, when I watch praise in Korea and other places, is like, and this may be my thinking, so I apologize for this, but I was like, it kind of lacks power. And power doesn't mean like, it doesn't mean like yelling and like and being loud, right? Like in volume or in pitch, but like it's just like when I watch people, like they're just kind of standing there like as like mannequins, right? And you know, I'm not criticizing them or anything, but you know, I think, right, I was really like, man, I wish someone would sing powerfully, right? Like that they would like really make it full of that heart as they sing. And you know, it's not to say that the performances on Sunday were like perfect or anything, but you guys were able to probably hear the remixes they did to some of the songs. And like even in the beginning, like when we first sang, like of course some of the songs weren't 선생님's Myung songs, but they were like songs of that we used to sing like in the past, and somewhat older Providence songs. And some of them were like, a lot of them were hymns, right? Like that came even from the former faith that we sang in the very early days of Providence. But it was great. It was full of energy, right? Like the praise. It was like an all male praise team, and at the end there was a special like performance, right, with like two songs I believe where they remixed it. Oh, and even the orchestra, right? The orchestral performance at the end. It was really amazing. And so I hope that we continue to have these kind of powerful praise portions too, and that in the West that we'll be able to do this as well, right? Like I think, you know, growing up for me, like in San Francisco, we always had a praise team, and we always had, you know, a pianist and like maybe some other instruments, the guitarist. And so our praise was never lacking. And I don't want to say that our praise now is lacking, right? It's definitely not meant to criticize or anything like that. But, you know, it's not that we lack the capacity now to do praise at that level, and actually to increase our level, right? It's not even going back to our former glory, anything like that. But it's in general just doing even more than we did, right? Because Providence history is a place where we continue to raise and elevate our level. And my cousins were laughing, right? Because like when like the people were praising, I was like kind of giving like kind of old man energy, right? And not old man energy, but old man responses. Like it's kind of like in Korea, especially when older people are reacting to young children performing, they like kind of clap, and they like they like kind of like, it's like when grandmothers and grandchildren like watch their when grandparents like watch their grandchildren performing, they'll clap and they're like so happy, right, to see, right? And so I was giving that kind of reaction, like a very old school reaction. But yeah, that's how much I was so happy to see that kind of performance. And you know, I know like more than me, the Trinity were happy, right? And of course it's not just about what the performance looks like externally, but internally within our hearts. And I'm sure that people who have been praising recently, even if the external hasn't been crazy in that way, that internally everyone has the same heart, right? So I can't criticize in any in that kind of way. Yeah, but I just hope that we continue to do more for praise altogether. And so that kind of includes the main portion from Alpha Day here, because I know that everyone else got to watch it already too. So I'm sure you have your own experiences and different things from that event. It was blazing hot during the event, and I'm sure that anyone who's been in Myeongdong during one of these seasons, as it's approaching summer, has experienced it. So my whole family got burnt, and I'm sure a lot of people were like that too. Yeah, but it was great nonetheless. And like actually, as soon as the I think it was as soon as the closing prayer was done, like clouds formed, and there was shade over us, and so that was amazing because it was blazing hot during the message, and as soon as the closing prayer was prayed, like a shadow you know, came over, and it made things cool. So I'm really grateful to the Trinity for that amazing word, for the amazing celebration, and you know, going into an AP, like what we were able to do, the ministry department prepared a testimony night. And I think this is the second of this series. Like, of course, like over the years, we've done these kind of testimony nights in the past, but this is the second time we're doing it in this kind of recent like trend for this, because I guess the last one, it went really well, and people really liked these testimonies, so they wanted to do it again. And you know, I think it was really great, and we have to do more and more of these too, to continue to share with one another, in this kind of testimony format as well as in other formats too. So that was one thing. And Minister Cameron, I hope he's okay with me saying his name right, from up in Georgia, who I've been working more and more together with, both for Florida and for Georgia and for guys in general, and just for our personal faith too. I actually, over the last few weeks, like I think the Holy Spirit's been really moving him to check in on me at different times when I really needed to talk to someone to like resolve something or take care of something or take action spiritually. And he would always kind of call during these kind of key moments. And of course, God has used other people, but it was always like when I was like thinking of doing something, but was needed to kind of work through it or pray about it, that he would call. And so that, he, one of the last times he called, he was like, hey, like AP is doing this testimony night. Would you want to prepare something together and testify together about Florida? And normally whenever like an event like this crops up, I don't really volunteer right away, right? Because I'm like, yeah, yeah, like, yeah, of course, everything that God's been doing in Florida is amazing, but like I know that I could be doing more, and even though we have been working hard to evangelize and stuff too, it's not like people have passed yet, and that we're making this crazy thing. I was like, huh, and so typically I'm of the mindset like, I feel like I have to work harder to show something before I can go out and testify. But I know that that's not the best way necessarily to look at it, and we should be testifying about what God has done and about what the Trinity have done, and what what Sonsingim and what Jesus have done, right? Because it's not our doing it. We have to testify, we have to share, because that part is what makes this history spread, right? Like testifying. And also, even for ourselves, it affirms for us what the Trinity are doing and what we've gained actually from this process. So I was like, okay, I was really grateful that he brought it he brought it up. And so I was like, okay, like there's much we could share. But they gave us like a 10-minute slot, right? Because there was like a lot of testimonies. And I was like, okay, let me try to keep it at as much as possible within a 10-minute time. Because yes, there's so many things we could share from Florida. But we've been able to share a lot on the MSD. And whenever I meet people personally, we talk about it anyways. So I was like, okay, let me try to keep it to like one story or one portion that doesn't just talk about like me, because I don't really like doing that when it comes to testifying, but let me make it about like what we've been doing together, and like bring it especially to what God has been doing and like how he's been providing, and try to inspire people in that kind of way. But even the other performances and the other testimonies were awesome. And I guess like one of the major things I have to point out is that we had four testimonies, but three out of the four of them were by second generation. And in fact, yeah, the other two second gen testimonies, they were even more moving than mine. Like, and I was like so grateful to hear these young lives who I've seen from the time they were like children, they were babies, like go up and testify on behalf of this history, on behalf of the Lord. That was really, really moving. And I want to say another thing, because I know many people are listening, and I try to reach out to them individually, but so many people have worked so hard, like, period. I could put a period after that, but it's like explaining further, like for ministry and for Florida, for second generation, for American Providence. Like Rachel has worked so hard. Pastor Sky has worked so hard. All the people who leave comments and all the people who do like the background work. I'm so thankful to each and every one of you guys. And your hard work doesn't go unnoticed, right? And I know sometimes in Providence, and not just in Providence, but in any organization, in any job, in any place, you can feel unnoticed. But especially within Providence, like that's how Satan kind of works and kind of tries to get in your head. But so I really wanted to acknowledge everyone, because really everyone's hard work does not go unnoticed by us, by like each person, and by the Trinity. And yeah, and if you ever need affirmation to know that your hard work doesn't go unnoticed, feel free to call me up, because I will acknowledge you. And kind of I'll go into that portion. For me, it's 1 p.m. here, so I might take a quick break to pray to the Trinity and come back. Yes, so coming back, I really feel that it's important to acknowledge people, for many things, right? And I'm really grateful that we get to live out in the West, because I'll say that in yeah, like I don't know if other people have experienced this before, like, but like for you, if something is like really challenging and you put in like a lot of effort, like, and sometimes you open up and you share about it to someone, for them it's like so basic. It's like, yeah, like duh. Like duh, of course you evangelize. Of course, you do street evangelism. Of course you like, go talk to people and you teach them. Like it's just so obvious. And so you may not feel acknowledged, and I've had that happen many times. And I don't mean that in a bad way, right? It's just like, for them, it's just an obvious thing. Whereas like, the same may hold true for you too, right? There may be things that are like very obvious to you, but like to another person it's not that obvious. um and you're like, yeah, of course people should be, I don't know, like praying. Of course everyone should be listening to the word. Of course everyone should be keeping the preed on. And so there's all of these basic things for you that for someone else is a really big thing. And I really wanted to acknowledge it because actually, like, when you think about with 선생님 and the Trinity, they always acknowledge like the things that people have done. Like something is always acknowledging us, right? Take a moment to really stop to think about it. Like, does he have to acknowledge anyone? Right? Like he takes action at this incredibly high level, like across everything, across like, his prayer life, across like his life of love and of faith to the Trinity, across evangelism, across delivering the word, across management, and even like these physical things, like whether it's like pruning trees or like doing like physical works like playing soccer, taking care of his health. He does everything at a high level, and so who can stack up to him on any single one of these things? And yet he still acknowledges us anyways. He says, "Oh my gosh, you did a good job. Thank you so much for doing this, right?" He points out these things and he acknowledges it in the word, through letters, spiritually, even through dreams, right? Like, people receive signs of like the hard work that they've done. He gives people names, he gives them missions, he does this and that. And if you have ever felt that you weren't acknowledged by him, just listen to the word. Just listen to that heart of love that he has, right? Like one of the speakers said that the thing that he really realized that he needs to gain from something is that love that that something has for the Trinity, and that he feels that God gives to us, like when he sees something, right? And there were like many really great things from the testimonies at that time. And so to wrap up, like what we did for American Providence for Alpha Day, we had these testimonies, and they were all like so extremely amazing. Mm, and I hate to be that person, right? Because but I'm not really though. Like I hate to be that person, but I don't think this is very unique. For like what I'm about to say is very unique. But like definitely hearing these testimonies, you feel fired up, right? You want to take action, and I think that's the point I really want to emphasize, because everyone wants to do that, right? Like, so I guess the point I really want to say is that yes, let's do it. Let's take action on it right away. Let's make sure that we fulfill it, right? So that it doesn't just become good in the moment. That it doesn't just become something that we become swept up into the atmosphere. But let's become consistent. Let's take action on it. Because even if we say all these good things today, if we don't take action on it in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, and if we forget the value and the things that we learned from today, and we eventually end up leaving Providence for this reason or that reason, like what use was that powerful testimony that you yourself gave? Right. And I'm speaking, for myself and for each and every one of us, right? Because we've gone through these kinds of tidal waves and these periods of our life and of our faith where we were on a decline and on a downhill. Even though like before, like when we reflect back on like when we were receiving our missions and we were working hard, we made all these bold proclamations and promises, right? And I'm not saying that to call people out or to hold them accountable to it, but each of us were like that, right? And I think we learned how scary promises can be from those kind of experiences. But the point I really want to bring back to attention is, yes, let's take action with sincerity, and let's just do it with consistency. We don't have to make promises. Even the Bible says like don't do that. Just say yes or no. And like because we have this fire at this time, let's really boldly take action on it. And so with that, I think this is okay to share because it's a specific direction, but it was a very it was related to the U.S. But I think, we need to have conversation about this so that we can take action on it right away and in a skillful way. But Sunstein gave direction for American Providence for evangelism. And it was a one-liner, but how it was presented, I think it really captures a lot of things. And I think headquarters, whenever it comes to something like this, like they could easily toss out a one-liner and said, oh yeah, something said this. But no, like, of course they make sure to emphasize the importance of it, what it really means, and like kind of makes us contemplate it a little further. But the direction that something gave to American Providence is do it in teams. Do it in teams. Like when it comes to ministry, like do it in teams. Right? And I think there was like a sentence or two, but I don't know the words verbatim of what was said. But that was like shocking, right? Because it was so clear. Yeah, it was like drinking like a tall glass of clear water. It was so refreshing. Do it in teams. And I think it resolves a lot of different questions, right? And this is after something saw the whole situation, received all of our letters and reports and different kinds of things. And after hearing all the things that we had to say, something said, do it in teams. And I'm sure everyone has different thoughts and ideas and about how we each can take action on that. And so, of course, I think for myself too, what comes to mind is that I shouldn't just pray and formulate my own opinions on what that means, but think about how I can be on a team and how I can support a team and how what I can do to help other people work together on a team too. And so I was really moved by that, and I've already had different kinds of thoughts and ideas. And yeah, I wonder like what that seemed to mean for you guys, right? If you're from AP, and even if you're not from AP, like what that kind of direction may mean for each of us and for American Providence and for all of us who evangelize. And so with that, I'll wrap up, the MSD, the Tuesday segment with Bible Today, and I'll hand things off with Rachel with 2G Talks.
Hello and welcome back to 2G Talks. Rachel here. So happy to have you guys back on our Tuesday segment. I'm really excited to actually share today. We are going to discuss a little bit of updates on my personal life, as well as what I'm most excited to share, the AP Ministry Testimony Night. So let's go ahead and just get started. Hello everyone. How are you? How was your week? How was your Alpha Day? I know that Pastor Sky went ahead and shared a little bit about his experience during Alpha Day. I'm sure that Eddie will also be sharing about his experience with Alpha Day as well, especially since he was there in Korea. That's something that I'm always so jealous about. I personally have not had the experience of having 316 or Alpha Day in person live in Korea, and I'm really, really hoping to be able to do that maybe next year. Who knows? So yes, definitely listen. Be sure to hear about their experiences, what it was like, how it's different in person on those tremendous occasions that we have in Providence history. Myself, although I was here in Houston, Eagle Church, it really was still so moving. And there were many moments during the service, during the performances as well, especially with the star singers, where I almost started crying because I was just so blown away and moved by this history. And Pastor Sky talked about it too, that the amount of work and effort that Sunstein has done for this Providence history for the past 47 years, how he was able to establish this complete Testament history is absolutely mind-boggling. It's insane, right? It's kind of difficult to even comprehend and see the vastness and the greatness of what he's done. But yeah, I'm just so grateful to be in this history. It really is a blessing to be a part of this complete Testament history, to know Sunstein, to know the truth, to know the word, and really live this blessed life of Providence. So yeah, I did my best during the Sunday message to write down every single thing that had happened. and all the different moments that Sun Cinnamon had, the different movements, the different parts, the different churches, the time span of the years in between each of the different churches. I tried to take my best notes. I was writing furiously, fierily during the message to really keep track, because I wanted to know how much time it took for Sun Cinnamon. And according to the message, it took about 10 years, right? From 1978 till roughly, 1988, 1989. So yeah, 10 years when they were able to finally have about 1,500 people, I believe, and be in that really, really small, dilapidated church where all of a sudden the gospel just started spreading like fire, and people were coming in and flooding in where they couldn't even fit, and some people had to be in the, I don't know if y'all remember that story, the closet story that someone shared. I'm sure Pastor Sky talked about it. I love that story. And so when I was hearing that, it actually made me think about the situation that we have here in America, and specifically the situation that we have here in Houston. And this is kind of related to the AP ministry testimony that I'm going to be talking about soon. But here in America and here in Houston, it's official. I have finished school. I finished working on Friday at like 10 a.m. I turned in my keys, I turned in my badge, I finished everything. And it didn't really feel real at first. And it still doesn't really feel real. It's only been a couple of days. But yeah, it's official. And I'm 100% motivated and ready to move and run for this history full time. But I wanted to compare, magnify and miniaturize, right? That's what Sun Cinnamon always says to do. Magnify the history that Sun Cinnamon made in Korea versus the history that we're going to be making here in Houston, hopefully. And so I was thinking, it took them 10 years for them to have 1,500 people in that, I think, Samseonkyo, that church, the really small church. And so it made me think, currently, realistically, I have about 2 years that I can run full-time Providence, considering my family situation and financially and things like that. And that's definitely a lot shorter than 10 years. But I really, really want to evangelize, and I really want to help to make history happen. And of course, even if I can't evangelize, 1,000, obviously 1,000 people is not going to happen in 2 years, maybe 10 if I'm really, really lucky. It doesn't mean that I have to stop evangelizing after the 2 years, right? I can do it for the rest of my life. So who knows? But I'm really hoping, and I'm really motivated to make a really big history here in Houston, especially since I'm not doing it alone. Like, some had to do it alone with the Holy Trinity. But here we have a team and a group. There's so many things that are related to the AP Ministry Testimony Night. So I'm just going to get into that right away. Let me just grab my journal. I took really good notes for you guys. So if you are not a part of American Providence, I don't know if you were able to join, or if you are, but we're too busy, then I am here to share with you the AP Ministry Testimony Night. So here we go. We had 4 testimonies, and Sun Cinnamon actually sent us a letter. I know, we're so lucky. So I'll go ahead and start. Many of the testimonies were actually from second gen, which to me, as a second gen leader, I was so moved and just so happy to hear from them. So I'll get into it. Our first testimony was from members in LA, specifically an SS, who's a second gen named Holly. Holly is 10th grade in high school, so that means she's 16 years old. And her whole story and theme was surrounding the fact that she wanted to evangelize people because she wanted to have better friends. So I took notes, so I'll go ahead and just kind of paraphrase my notes. So she gave a little background on her faith in general. She says that she keeps her room really clean so that the Holy Trinity can come whenever she prays. She hides her clothes in her closet. She puts the dirty clothes away so they don't see them. She even has a couch or like a chair in her room for the Holy Trinity. And growing up, she always wanted to share the word, actually, ever since middle school. But she said that the school she went to in middle school was a ghetto school, so a not very safe school. She said the kids were really bad, and that, for example, you would lend money to them, and they would forget that you ever lend money to them, or they wouldn't talk about it, they'd avoid you. So it was just a really sketchy school. And she could tell right away, these people are not ready to receive the word. She also acknowledged that she had kind of bad friends until this year, her 10th grade year of school. And so she made up her mind that she wanted to have better friends. Right? She said that her friends were always gossiping and talking about boys, which she found so annoying. And so she prayed to be able to make new friends. As she was praying, she also would write down her thoughts. She always wrote down her dreams because she, has a lot of dreams and any good ideas. And in doing so, it helped her to gain confidence in her speaking and in her writing. She also noted that after a long time of praying, as well as writing down and gaining confidence in writing, she actually was also given a new schedule, a new class schedule. And through this, she was actually moved into a different gym period because she had joined the soccer team, which there's a whole thing for that. And through there, she was able to meet two girls who immediately she went up to, filled with confidence, and was able to make her new friends with them. Regarding the soccer team, she said she did it for just church at first. But then through church, she actually really came to enjoy playing soccer. So at school, she went to go ahead and join the soccer team. And she didn't get in the first time, she said. But it was only after she practiced again and again that she was able to get in the second time, because the coaches noticed that she was really trying her hardest. Now, the next part is so cute. It's so Holly. I don't know if you've ever met Holly. She's there on my Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can see her on one of my Korea posts. She is so outgoing, so cute, so funny. I aspire to be Holly. I really do. And the more I talk about this testimony and from her point of view, you'll see what I mean. So, continuing. She continued to pray after joining the soccer team because the girls that she had met, those two new friends of hers, were so mature and so kind, so completely different from the friends that she had before, that these new best friends of hers, she really wanted to evangelize. And so she prayed and prayed, trying to figure out how to do it. She then went to Korea for July 14th, the most recent American Providence trip that we had. And on that day, I believe, it was one of the Holy Spirit story letters, there was that eagle cloud that appeared. And so she actually, when she came back to America, she told her friends about the eagle cloud. And one of her friends said that she also saw a baby eagle on that exact same day. And so Holly was like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely a sign. And so she made it even more determined to pray, continuously read her Bible, and really tried to start thinking about ways and strategies to evangelize her friends. So she had joined the soccer team at this point. She was also a part of this music team, which she said that she wasn't very good at music. She had started playing the drums because they asked her, but she really was terrible at it. But because every day at lunch she would go for about 20 minutes, over time, the more and more she did it, the better that she became. She also joined a club called the Bible Club, which is actually a club that her father had started, which was funny because she said it was known, her father used to tell her stories of how people called him a bruja, which means like a witch, because he would heal people, using his faith and using the word, but he would actually heal people's sickness in high school when her father went to school. And it was also her father who kind of developed her faith that she had in God and in Providence. He would always tell her stories of spiritual experiences that he had, spiritual experiences that other people had, dreams, which she always found really fascinating. So it was because of her father that she was really able to develop her faith really, really well. And so when she was at this Bible club, her friends, these 2 girls, were also part of the club. And at first it was okay, but then she started to get very bored. She said there was one moment where they were teaching the resurrection. And they were testifying and preaching to each other, reading the Bible and saying that Jesus, his body is going to resurrect. It's going to come back to life here on earth, his body. And whenever we die, all our bodies are going to come back from the grave. And many of the people around them were accepting it. And she was so shocked, right? As a second gen and as a member of Providence who knows the complete Testament history, the word, the truth, she was like, how can they preach with such conviction? If they can teach something like this in the wrong way, then I definitely can teach the lesson in the right way. If they can do it, so can I. So she made up her mind to actually create a lesson plan, an outline, and prepared herself to teach. She actually went up to the teacher, the sponsor of this club, and asked if she could give a lesson, because usually it's the president of the club. And the teacher, surprised, because usually students don't come up and ask if they can teach something, agreed to Holly's request. So the next time that they met, she actually taught them Sunstop. And she did it in 2 parts, but overall, her peers were so moved from listening to this Bible study that Holly, who's I think 17 years old, that she taught, right? Even the teacher, the student leader, when they listened, they were so moved by it. The president of the club actually said she went to her family and actually told her family about what she had learned, and all of her family had accepted. So people within the club were really amazed and inspired, and kind of to nail the, I guess you could say, the lid on the coffin, right? To get that final nail in. Holly was really thinking about how to evangelize the people. And so for the last Bible study that they had, which was this past Friday, she said, she came out, she was praying, and she received inspiration on what this next lesson should be. She received 3 things. She said the first was to interpret the Bible correctly. She had to teach them to do that. Second, that she had to share the Sunday message that someone had given. And third, help them realize the value of the word. So once she received inspiration about the outline, she wrote it out and she shared it with them. She even shared about how Womdong water can heal. The doctors have tested the medicine, tested the water, and seen its medicinal properties, and testified about people who have been healed by it. She even testified saying that her pastor, Sansanim, had learned from Jesus. Which she told them, if you think that's sketchy, and then she gave some examples like, Apostle Paul learned from Jesus. This is something that people do. And at first she was nervous about how people would react to this lesson in general. Because she had asked them then, hey, if you want to do Bible study, if you want to continue learning, my church gives these lessons, type of thing. And she wasn't sure if people were going to sign up as she spread or handed out this sign-up sheet. But she said, it was actually a group of 15, 20 kids that she was preaching to. She said, 7 kids signed up. 4 girls, 3 boys. And so she was so happy and so inspired to continuously run for this history. She said, and prayed to God that God would help her to improve in soccer, because she really likes soccer, right? As much as she has improved in faith. And she realized that through taking action, actually both things she improved and did better in. And so she said, also, when you dribble in soccer, she gave the example, you have to go the other way that the opponent's going to try and block them. In the same way, it's your job to read what people are thinking in order for you to be able to connect with them and help to guide the newcomer correctly. And that's what she was doing with her friends, actually. There's 2 best friends, the new ones that she was able to get, that God sent for her, that she was able to find. She said some guys had recently tried to, hit on them or approach them, but God had actually shown her some red flags within these guys and had led her and how to say things in a nice, kind way to guide her friends away from these guys and help them to focus on the Bible club and the lessons that they were doing. So she said, even if Evangela doesn't work out at first, it will once you testify and show the world the greatness that we have of the word. So that was Holly's testimony. Again, a second gen who's a 10th grader in high school who taught 20 people and has 7 people who have signed up to learn Bible study. So that's really amazing. Go Holly. Everyone at my church was saying how much they wanted to be like Holly. Just be that bold and just testify because we have the truth. And that's what Sunset always says too. Second testimony that there was from Minister Cameron, who used to do and has spoken on MSD before. He was a part of the Man Cave. And also Educational Minister Eddie, who, as you know, he also does our Tuesday podcast together with me. And so they talked about how they started ministry in Florida. I know Eddie has already actually shared this story before, so I'll be kind of brief with this one. If he wants to talk about it in his Tuesday segment, you can listen to it then. Eddie was testifying about how there was a specific individual that he really wanted to evangelize. It was one of the peers of his at law school. And that within the first week or so, he had been talking to a Jewish student, because Florida is known for their Jewish population. I did not know that. But they have a high Jewish population, and Eddie was telling the student that he really feels that God sent him to law school in Florida. And this other student, who is the main character or newcomer of this story, overheard them and came up to him and asked, and actually expressed the same emotion that Eddie was feeling about how God had sent him. So Eddie was really moved by that statement and actually kind of inspired to continue talk to this newcomer and see if he would be interested in doing Bible study, which the newcomer had said yes to. But, with law school, it's always really, really busy. And so Eddie was unsure about how to reapproach the situation, what strategies to do. And so he wasn't sure. There was a kind of fiasco with the situation of the rooms, Eddie said. On the first day of school, you sit in a room. Wherever you sit, that's where you're going to be for the rest of the semester. But the professor actually didn't like the room, so they changed rooms. So Eddie was now able to sit next to the newcomer that he really wanted to sit next to. And so because of that, he felt as though God was showing him another sign that he should continuously talk to this newcomer and see if he would learn Bible studies. The professor also told them that he doesn't really like computers, and he would much rather prefer that they take everything by hand. And so Eddie had taken out his journal, which he hadn't opened in a while, and opened it to the first page. On that first page, Eddie had written on it at the very beginning of law school, when he was first, being, and when he had first enrolled into law school. And it had one scripture, Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, which is when God was telling Joshua to be bold and courageous. The peer, this newcomer that he was talking to, his name is actually Joshua. And so Eddie felt like, oh my gosh, this is another coincidence. I need to be bold and courageous. Eventually, there were some hurricanes that had actually occurred a little while back in Florida. I don't know if y'all were aware of them, but there was like a Category 5 that was barreling towards Florida. So Eddie evacuated and went to Georgia, which is another state in the South of America. And he was contacting his peers, this student Joshua, and he asked him where he had evacuated to. Turns out Joshua had also evacuated to Georgia. So he asked him what town he was in. Maybe they could meet up, or, if not, that would be okay. Turns out Joshua was in the exact same town, practically down the street from where Eddie was staying with Minister Cameron. And so they were able to actually meet with this newcomer, meet his friends, and create that relationship and bond. So they are once again trying to restart and have him learning during the summer and just have him be more consistent. But Eddie sees a lot of hope, and that there are a lot of really intelligent people, which is what we need, and right? Sunset wants us to get quality people to come to Providence. So he asked for a lot of prayers, and he said this was actually, Eddie said, a sneak peek into the next week of Bible school, because he's in Korea again, and so Bible school for them is a week ahead. And he said Sunset said, and focused a lot on evangelism actually. And he said that if we don't evangelize, because it's hard, none of us would be here. That's what Sunsenham said for the Bible school of this coming week, right? So even though there's a lot of difficulties when it comes to evangelism, and maybe newcomers may fall off or not follow through 100%, and just like what Holly said, right? You just have to continuously testify the word, be bold, and be brave. So that was the testimony that was for Florida, the starting of the ministry in Florida. Next was a testimony that's actually very close to heart. This is the testimony of Denise, who is currently a newcomer, who is not officially passed yet, but has realized Sunsenham and his mission. And so Denise is actually a member from, or a newcomer, I should say, who is from Mexico. And she's here, and she doesn't know English very well. It's not her first language. Primarily, she speaks in Spanish, but she felt really inspired and actually wanted to speak in English to all of American Providence. So she actually, with my mother, went through her notes, wrote a script in English, which she read to us today, or I should say during the AP ministry testimony night. So this is just detailing her story. So she actually, Denise, before learning the Bible studies, was always very devout in her faith. She actually started studying Hebrew because that was, the language that Jesus knew and that the Jews knew at the time in Israel. And through that, it helped her to feel closer to Jesus and understand the Bible even more. And since coming to America, she actually went to many different churches in the area because she was always hoping to look and find something deeper. And she made a habit of always reading the Bible daily, which helped but also didn't help her this unsatisfying feeling that was left in her heart. Because although she read it, she didn't really understand it. Oftentimes she would just go to the beach or parks that are around her every Saturday and Sunday and listen to the messages that Hispanic pastors would preach, and she'd listen to them in Spanish. And she used that time as time spent together with God, kind of praying to Him and calling out to Him, because she felt as though she was constantly just looking and searching for something more, but she didn't know how to do it or where it was. Then Minister Erica came up to her and started to testify to Denise about this history, about the word that she had learned, about how Erica, had actually lost her job recently, but that she wasn't afraid because she absolutely believed in God and that God would take care of her. And that Minister Erica had gone to a place in Korea, a special place called Womandong, which is a natural temple of God. And then here in this place of Womandong, she prayed and actually received a phone call letting her know that she would be having a job when she came back to America. And that it was through Sunsenham, her pastor, who had actually learned from Jesus, that she was able to receive this blessing. And so Minister Erica is telling her all of this, telling Denise all of this. And of course, Denise doesn't really know English that well. So she confessed she didn't really know 100% of what Erica was telling her. But she could feel Erica's immense faith and see how great and big it was and see how much she believed in God. And so Denise thought, I want to learn from this person. I want to see where this person has found such amazing and great faith. I want to know where this is. And so she agreed to do Bible study, which is when then my mother was called and asked to teach Bible study in Spanish. So Denise had learned a few Bible studies with Minister Erica in English. I want to say 3, but it wasn't really working that well because of the language barrier. And so my mother came in to teach. My mother had never really taught in Spanish before. She had been asked a couple of times by a pre-pastor, the pre-pastor who's in charge of the Latin American churches. But she was always uncomfortable or, not confident in her ability to do that. So she always said no. But because Minister Erica was so kind of desperate. It was a desperate situation, and she had a life who was really determined to learn, that my mother was inspired and said, okay, yes, I will do it. And so going back to Denise, since she was very young, she actually prayed constantly and asked Jesus to not leave her behind during the rapture, because she was so scared that she would be left behind. But then she said she realized, as she was learning the Bible studies, about how God is love, and that because God loves her so much and she was able to receive him, God wouldn't leave her behind. She said she also realized, actually, pretty early on, and told my mother, Pre-Pastor Mel, that Susan was the first bride, right? She may not know what that means, but to us, we know what that means. And my mother said, let's just keep praying about it. So Denise realized that it was actually her spirit that had recognized the truth. And she realized after coming to Providence, her whole life, everything that had happened, her coming to America, how she was able to come, everything had to do with ensuring that she would be able to meet Minister Erica and come to Providence. Recently, within, was it March? Yeah, this past March, she actually started to come to pre-dawn at around 4 a.m. to set a condition. And so she started coming, and the first time that she came, she said that it was so cold. She didn't realize how cold it was going to be, and that she wanted to leave immediately. But then as she continued to pray, she felt as if someone all of a sudden hugged her from behind, and it was so real that she actually opened her eyes and looked. But she said there was nobody there, and yet she could feel the warmth of the embrace around her, and she realized it was the Holy Trinity holding her. She also detailed how moved she was when she learned related mission from John the Baptist and Jesus, and how insane it is that the truth can be in front of people's faces, in front of their eyes, and yet they don't realize. And so she made a commitment that she would be someone who would absolutely realize Jesus, and that she would follow him until the very end. She also talked about how the first time Denise came to church, she saw how beautifully and amazing the brides, the members, dressed up for service. But she always, she didn't have a lot of money at the time. She didn't have a job. And so she didn't really have nice clothes to wear to church. And so she felt so regretful and so sorry to the Holy Trinity. And so she really, really prayed earnestly, asking, God, please help me. I want to be able to have nice clothes for you for church. And through her prayers, actually, Mr. Erica and my mother, without her telling them, they felt inspired to give her clothes. So they helped her. They gave her some money along with some offerings that were given by members so that Denise could go and actually buy. So they went and had a shopping spree. And so Denise is now have beautiful dresses, which she wore also for her testimony. So she showed everyone, this is the dress that the Holy Trinity gave me. But yes, she was able to learn times and a half time right before 316. I think maybe a couple days prior. And she realized completely about Sunsonim. And so she was able to receive 316 perfectly. And she felt that she had raptured. Because of Providence, her life had changed completely. And it continues to change. Everything about her life is so much different now. And so much better, she said. She's still learning a lot about Sunsonim and how amazing his life is. And truly that he is the one to believe in, his life, and how amazing and perfect it is. And so she's absolutely determined to preach in Mexico and have the history and the gospel spread there to her people. My mother also testified during this portion because she was the, as I mentioned, main lecturer for Denise and taught her pretty much everything from the beginning lessons to the most advanced lesson. And so my mother's testimony was short for Denise. She just covered some main points. She said that every time she taught Denise, she always felt Jesus would come. And she could see how much Jesus loved Denise. And so both of them would cry every time that they learned the Bible studies together. And there was one point where my mother was praying for Denise and for the people in Mexico too, and Latin America. And she said she heard my mother 1,000, it was like 1,000 voices all of a sudden calling out to God in a loud voice. And so she realized, truly, we have to conquer the world with this word, with the truth that we've been given by Sansanim. Which is amazing because actually it has been confirmed. Her, my mother, and Kat, who's another member here in America, are going to Brazil to do some missionizing work in Latin America. So yes, please pray for them. I'm going to be asking them a lot of questions when they come back, hopefully being able to interview Kat and my mother, see how it was in Brazil, see who they were able to talk to, and I look forward to having the history grow there as well. But going back to the testimony, she also then talked about how related mission, which again was one of Denise's favorite and most shattering. Denise said it shattered her heart to learn related mission. It was so shocking. That Denise actually needed a whole week in order to realize. Denise also said that she, after learning that lesson, actually had to repent because she realized how much people we had failed Jesus. It was then during spring break that my mother received inspiration from the Holy Trinity. It was a voice actually telling her to go to LA. And so, because my mother was going, Minister Erica told Denise, Mel is coming. She's coming with the word. We have to set a prayer condition. And so they set a prayer condition to prepare for the coming of my mother, which at that time during spring break was going to be when my mom would finish the last couple of lessons and then teach her times and a half time right before 3:16. So it was very important, very critical lessons that were left. When my mother got there, there were a few signs that were received, along with the weather changing. The forecast had shown that it was going to be rainy, but then as soon as she arrived, it actually turned sunny. So that showed that the Holy Spirit indeed had come. There was one thing that Denise had said to my mother that she thought was so funny, which was it was her dream to come to America and be able to go to Disneyland. And so my mother, although, she had planned to come to LA and teach Denise every single day, it was going to be like work for her during spring break. Every day she was going to learn a lesson. But because Denise had said this, and it was so sweet, then my mom said, okay, well, let's pray. Let's see what God says. If it stays sunny, then we will go to Disneyland. But if all of a sudden it starts raining, and mind you, this is California, so it doesn't really rain. But if it does rain, then God is saying, I have to teach you Bible study. The day came. It ended up raining. This also happened to be the day that Denise actually ended up learning time times half a time and realized. So that was the story of Denise. Okay, last testimony. I hope it's not too long. I know it's already been 30 minutes, but this is the best one, guys. I swear, it's the best one. And I only say best because it has to do with a more kind of tumultuous topic in regards to a second gen actually leaving Providence and then coming back. So this is regarding, and I know actually Sam has done an interview with Pastor Sky already, so if you haven't listened to that, please do. I believe it was on a Monday podcast. I can't recall which actual date it was. I'll have to look through and check again, but yeah, it was very moving. So again, my mother actually started, and she gave a quick timeline on what occurred. I'm not going to go through every single thing, just the main topics. So, whenever there was the American Providence United Service, February 17th, actually she heard some unfortunate news about the Reimer family, about Sam and his situation, and after that she prayed constantly about it, and it constantly kept coming to her mind, the situation, and she was really bothered by it. And so as she continuously prayed, she actually heard a voice. And that voice told her, go to New York. First time, she ignored it. But then again, it told her, go to New York. And it kept coming to her multiple times. She said like 3 or 4 times. But she kept fighting it. And she actually at one point started talking to herself, which really was talking to the Holy Spirit, asking, what am I going to do? I'm not anybody. I don't have any wisdom on this situation. I don't know what I would do. I've never been in this situation before. How could I help? And in her heart, she heard it so clearly. She said, go to New York. I, the Holy Spirit, am going with you. Show them my love. She actually recalled the scripture that talks about, if I don't have love, then I am nothing. Right? You can have everything in the whole world, but if you don't have God, you're nothing. If you don't have love, then you are nothing. And that's what Sunset is all about. And so myself and my mother, we went together. She felt as though we were like Moses and Aaron, going forward, working hard together to help and show this family love and to help them. And so there was many amazing instances, many signs. Again, same thing. Forecasted to be really cold, really rainy. But as soon as we got there, very sunny. It was sunny the entire time. There are many instances where when we woke up for pre-dawn, there would be birds at the window chirping. And just things like that in general. A lot of natural revelations. And it wasn't until 3:16 where, we had the event that actually, instead of my mother inviting Sam to come to church, she actually asked him to do Bible study. And he agreed. And so that was her testimony of just sharing how really the Holy Trinity just want to love and send their love, especially to second gen. And it was simply through her being willing and able that she was able to go and show love, which is what Sunset is all about, what he teaches, what we preach, and what we believe in, right? Then Sam came, and Sam did an amazing job at testifying. Again, I'm just going to share the key parts and then wrap up. So Sam mentioned how he's someone who really panics and overthinks constantly, which I thought was so funny. And he realized how important it is to have a strong sense of perception. It was because of his perception that he left, and because of his perception that he came back. And he really wanted to be someone that was unshaken. And so growing up, he had actually a really, really great faith. But only during COVID did he actually start to overthink and overanalyze and think about his faith. Why am I here? Why do I believe in providence? Do I really believe in providence? Do I really believe in God? Am I just doing it because of my family? And so because of this, as well as comparing himself with others, he actually began to feel very insecure about his faith and questioned even more about his faith. Not only that, but he had an added layer of his family situation, actually. His father and mother had divorced, and his father was also leaving the faith, which is very similar to, the situation that I had personally with my father. The difference, though, is that Sam's father really influenced Sam quite a bit, right? Sam made it his mission to try and avoid things that he saw as kind of flaws and things that were lacking in his parents. But that made it really hard, right? Because when he looked at his mother, he saw she didn't have a lot of faith growing up. She didn't go to church. She didn't really read her Bible that much. But over time, as the years progressed, her faith grew more and more and more. So it was like an increasing crescendo type of thing. His father, though, when he was growing up, everything was about his faith. And he had read the Bible 17 times in his youth, and he felt God all the time. But as he got older, actually Sam's father began to blame God and said it was because of God that he received his hardships and difficulties, and actually eventually lost his faith. So it was more like a crescendo, right? Decreasing. So it was really high in faith young, and then decreased. His father also went to college and, had all these things. And so Sam was very worried about having his life mirror his father, because his father was actually telling him, the things that you're doing are what I'm doing. You're going to regret your life, and you're going to have a life that's like mine. You're following my life. So Sam was really scared of that. He felt like he had two opposing forces pulling at him constantly. Either he'd go to his father or he'd go to his mother. And it was even more difficult because, of course, they're his parents. But it was that they were both so loving and obviously coming from places of caring for him that they were doing this. And so that made it even more difficult. So then he wondered, why did he believe in providence? And he felt at the time to not believe in God would be more certain. He talked about that. He really wants to be someone who's certain. And he felt that he didn't really believe in God that much, but that he was just following people, which really, really bothered him a lot because he felt he had to be 100% absolute. And so that caused him to need to take a break from church. When he did that, of course, though, immediately it didn't really go well for him. And he couldn't find the confidence that he thought he would be able to find out in the world. But he thought maybe it's just because he's so used to Providence people and Providence culture and stuff. And his father sent him this final kind of blow, this final test, in a way, sending emails to Sam about Providence, about all the bad things that he himself had experienced. And Sam really just wanted to find his own way. And he felt that it was so complicated because he's trying to find his own way, but he's got his mom pulling at him here, his dad pulling at him here. And at the end of the day, he just wanted certainty. He just wanted to pick something and follow on it. And he felt that God existing was too complicated because he didn't understand God. But God not existing was a bit easier. He would be able to live his life with more certainty. And so when he kind of decided he would not believe in God, he then went for something he called a funeral walk, which is when he decided to let go of God. And as he's on this walk, he's walking down this path. When he gets to the end of this path, he doesn't know where he is. He turns around and sees 3 words that cause everything in his brain to shift. God is real. He said when he saw that sign, right, because he had just been wandering, he didn't know where he was. When he saw that sign, he actually got chills. And he started laughing. He started questioning. He thought, is this God talking to me? Because this was the moment that he had just made up his mind to stop believing in God, to just say God doesn't exist, right? And now there's this little thing, right? That's what he called it, a thing, that now is causing his mind to just completely turn to mush again, right? And he tried to stop thinking about it. He saw it and he actually tried to stop thinking about it. He thought maybe it was just a coincidence. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. And it came to mind. That's when myself and my mother went to New York, and he said Mel spoke to him about things. She had a vast wealth of knowledge. She spoke to him about the world. She spoke to him about his family situation and just really enlightened him on a lot of things. And he actually said, I'm a potato. That's what he told my mom. When he realized he really didn't know. Right? And he realized after talking with my mother, how do I know what I'm rejecting? Right? Do I really know God enough to be able to reject him and say, I don't believe in him? And he actually realized that he didn't. How could he reject God when he didn't know? That would be so unfair. And he also realized from my mother 3 words also that really moved his heart. God is love. And that's the foundation and that's the core. And he realized that if he builds and centers everything of his faith on those 3 words, then things make sense, right? He actually said a quote that I'm just going to read word for word. I thought it was so amazing. He said, the ideal world is made within yourself. You can't make it if you think about the hardships or other people, right? For example, Sensitive, his situation is not something that actually stops him or even changes his action. No matter how much he's slandered, no matter how much persecution, it doesn't matter. Yeah, he prays for people, Sensitive, and he cares for people and he loves people, but he doesn't let those people affect him. He's so centered on God's will, he just keeps on moving. So in the same way, Sam felt even more emboldened to absolutely take action on this history, bring the kingdom of heaven here on earth. And that he realized Sensitive was truly the role model he needed all along. Lastly, Pastor Gabe spoke, and he just kind of reaffirmed everything that Sam mentioned. I love Pastor Gabe. He talked about how amazing it is to have a family And he talked about how he wants to evangelize his own family, but that he truly realized how Providence is a family. Because who gives up their vacation time to come and help people that you don't really know? Well, my mother and I did that because we're a Providence family and we love each other, and we should continue to love each other. And because we want to help each other, and we absolutely want to fulfill God's will as well. Yes, so those were the 4 testimonies. I know, I'm sorry, that was so much. I didn't realize it would be this long. Pastor Hyung Sung also actually came up because Sensinam gave us a reply to, remember when Sensinam actually called out American Providence in Europe for not evangelizing a lot? Ooh, whoops. Well, we actually sent him back a response. And he sent us a letter. It's a 1 sentence. I'll read it to you. Sensinam said, "There must be evangelism teams. Evangelism can only succeed if they do well." So it was like our call to action. For myself, to wrap it up, especially after hearing Sensinam's letter to all of American Providence regarding ministry, I was really inspired. And to be completely honest, I am afraid. I'm afraid to take action, to put myself out there, to have people misunderstand me and put me down or reject me. But like Sensinam said, it's not people that you have to worry about, right? They don't know any better. Don't hate the people, hate the demons and Satans that are within them. Right? And so instead of having resentment for them or anything because of their lack of knowledge or ignorance, I just need to focus on loving them and taking care of them to the best of my ability. And the only way to do that is through the word. So, yeah, I know that there will be pain and struggle at first, running for this history, trying to evangelize. But I really want to evangelize. I really want to evangelize. And like Sam said, bring the kingdom of heaven, bring the kingdom of God here on earth, to make it a wonderful, beautiful, amazing place. I realized even more abundantly what a blessing it is to be loved by God. Just the almighty, all-knowing, omniscient creator of heaven and earth, to be loved by him. It's really a privilege. Because he's always going to love me. He's always going to take care of me. He's always going to protect me. He's always going to watch over me. He stands by us, never leaves us alone. Make sure we don't wander and that we're not afraid. Really, it is amazing to be loved by God. Even Sensinam, when he went through the worst time in his life, even when Sensinam was starving, and it seemed like nothing was going to go right, God was always with him. And eventually things succeeded, and we have Providence as it is today, with the gospel spread to over 70 nations, countries across the world. Really, what a beautiful thing it is to be loved by God. So I hope you liked my super long segment of 2G Talks. I am very sorry. Maybe you can listen to it in segments. Anyways, with that, I'll go ahead and conclude. Please feel free to like the video, leave a comment, or email Eddie and I at 2G Talks. If you have testimonies that you want to share, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here to listen and share your voice for the gospel. All right, I'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head